Welcome to Sports Geek Throwback. Here's your host, the sports geek himself, Sean Callanan.
G'day, I'm Sean Callanan from Sports Geek, and welcome to Sports Geek Throwback, where I pick out the best bits from the Sports Geek podcast archive. For this week's Sports Geek Throwback, I go back to episode 101 with Tom Halls, published in July 2015. Tom was at the LTA British Tennis at the time this episode was recorded. He is now Director of Social at SailGP. Does your team need help across digital marketing and social? Please get in touch. We apply the digital to dollars process to help your team build revenue. In this throwback episode, Tom and I discuss why participation drives different metrics than professional sports. Remember, you can listen to the full episode at sportsgeekhq.com/101. Enjoy.
We talk a lot about fan engagement and things like that when we're talking about, DigiSport, as it's known over in the UK. Mm-hmm. But for you, it's really it's more players and getting people to participate more so than cheeks on the seats and the fans attending matches, because yours is really that grassroots participation.
Yeah, so there are kind of two key metrics in that sense. There is the participation numbers, feet on court, how many people are playing tennis on a weekly basis across the country. But we do have targets around our major events as well. So we've got 5 tournaments in the lead up to Wimbledon. It's like the US Open series, apart from they're not owned by, it's not the Wimbledon series. So those tournaments lead up to Wimbledon. So a lot of the players here, so you'll get all of the US guys, Dimitrov, Federer, Nadal, Murray, Kyrgios, all of these guys will probably come and practice here at some point in the couple of weeks leading up to Wimbledon. So there are some great opportunities there for engagement and getting some good content there. But yeah, you're entirely right. Our pure, the pure metric, as it were, it's what we do is getting more people on court.
And so one of the things that you oversaw and looked over was the new LTA website earlier in this year. What were some of the things you were looking for in going through that refresh, and what you were trying to do as far as engage players and getting more people to play, but then also making it a bit of a portal for all those events that you're also hosting?
Sure. It's a great question. And I think one of the key challenges for a lot of governing bodies, I think what Tennis Australia do superbly, is break down that kind of myth of a governing body being very statistical. And it's, traditionally a lot of NGB or National Governing Body websites have been very encyclopedic. It's been full of, self-serving content and information. So a big part of it for us was to flip it around and say, well, what do our fans want? What do the players want? What do coaches, the workforce, parents of children playing, what do they want? So it was completely refreshed on that basis. And we looked quite, we've had no qualms about that. We've looked very heavily at Tennis Australia because we see them as class leading with what they've done in terms of design for tennis. And the idea has been to kind of break down that perception of tennis in this country. Tennis in this country is still often incorrectly labelled as kind of an elitist sport, but it's actually very open, very freely available to play. There's tons of courts. It's pretty cheap to get started, actually, if you get a racket and balls and so on. So the website was kind of an entry portal for people trying to get into the sport in this country, or people that wanted to be a little bit inspired, but also those that are already competing and playing. How can we enable them to increase their amount of participation or increase the amount of time they're playing? For us, when I say enabler, that for me is a key kind of pillar for what we do with digital in this organisation. We can't, when we talk gamification and so on, we're talking real life gamification here. It's quite difficult to shift the dial and get people out onto court. Influencing behaviour is quite tricky. So we see the LTA's channels, whether it's the web, whether it's social media, whether it's email, as being able to enable people to do that and remove some of those barriers. So if people can't find a court, we have a court finder tool. If they can't book a court or their time is quite precious, then we've got a court booking functionality as well now. So we're slowly turning that tanker around and kind of saying, well, tennis isn't as difficult to get into as you think. And the website's been a key part of that. It desperately needed an overhaul. So we've been live since about February now, and we've in a constant kind of, to quote the software guys, we're kind of in an agile process in that sense of reiterating and iterating again on a month-to-month basis.
If you like this Sports Geek Throwback episode, please check out the full episode at sportsgeekhq.com. Please share Sports Geek with your sports business colleagues. We appreciate you sharing. We love working with podcast listeners. Please get in touch so we can help your team. Go to sportsgeekhq.com/phone call. All Sports Geek episodes are available at sportsgeekhq.com and all podcast platforms.